And I'm like, and the problem is, fat boy?
Exactly.
Sorry.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
All right, everyone, it's time for One Fucking Hour. I am Evan Husney, joined, of course, by my co-hosts. Tom Fitzgerald to my left. Tom.
Good evening.
And to my right, Marcus Herring. What's up?
What's up? What's up, guys? I grew up my neck beard for this one.
All right, yeah.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no. We're trying to de-neck beard tonight, folks, because tonight's
Ixnay
film-
on the Echnay.
Tonight's fucking hour, this fucking hour, is going to be on the 1979 horror film directed by Don Coscarelli, Phantasm, or as we've been calling it here the last week, fucking Tasm, man. So,
That's right.
Tasm.
TASM.
yeah, Tasm. You guys seen that Tasm movie? All right, so I'm going to start the clock here.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, no. And here we go. All right. So, guys, for me, Tasm is really one of the rare horror films that I actually think, like, gets better with time. You know, like, it didn't like, you know, in terms of where it started and now where it's at today, I just feel like it ages so well. As time goes by, it just gets even fucking cooler and more awesome. I'm the one with the cold this week, so I'm a little under the weather, but I'm going to try to battle it through for this one.
Somehow through Zoom, we're passing it around. I don't know how that works.
Sorry, man.
Right, yeah.
The fuck? But because normally my exuberance for this movie would be at a level of like heavy metal parking lot bystander, you know, for this movie. Tasm!
We gotta do that.
We should do that, yeah. A one fucking hour and a 23-minute movie. Okay, so, but I want to kick it off to you, Tom, because at the end of last week's ep, we were talking Tasm, and we were saying that, you know, or you were describing it as sort of a 70s hard rock album gatefold cover sort of come to life. Can you kind of walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've always associated with, you know, none of the iconic general cultural imagery of the early 70s so much, but definitely rooted heavily in the late 70s. Blacklight Poster is another kind of signifier, you know, and definitely van art. And what I mean by that is just a sort of subculture that's got really strong and developed as the 70s went to the early 80s of, you know, bong hitting, denim jacket, you know, a band, you know, a T-shirt,
8-track tapes,
8-track tapes, long-haired dirtbags who would smoke various things in the smoking area in the back of this high school. You know, those guys, you know, they're older than me and they scared me and sort of, but fascinated me. And they were I just kind of knew when I first saw Phantasm that it was their movie because it has, it's weird. It's kind of rock and roll. But not literally. It's not, you know, like stunt rock or something like that, or you know, like something with it doesn't have a rock soundtrack, you know, but it does rock in its own way. But anyway, what I mean is it lends itself to midnight movie culture, which is kind of like dirtbag bong hit rock culture too. It was a big popular midnight movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I can just imagine it really cleaning up in the suburbs. Where these kinds of you know, creatures of the night used to live.
Yeah, you seen that fucking ball that comes flying in your fucking face, man?
I know, exactly.
They got there's a lot of jean jackets in the movie.
Oh yeah,
long hair.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Jackets.
They're kind of living it too. The older brothers, and I'm sure that actually the first guy who dies in the film, what is it? Eddie, what's his name?
Oh shit, I can't remember.
You know?
It's so good.
Yeah, I know, me either. What the hell? I drawn a blank.
Tommy.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Thank you. No, so Tommy looks like, you know, like King Stoner Dirtbag #1. I would love to have seen him in his prime. Doesn't he? You know, he's got the facial hair all down. He looks like the real troublemaker guy of that type. And again, he seems to signify the perfect demographic for Phantasm. That's what I mean. And what always clicks for us, we used to just go back and forth on this, was van art, certainly.
Right.
But then, boom, the best analogous visual component to Phantasm are album covers. Kind of Led Zeppelin 4 is in there, because that and Led Zeppelin certainly were, progenitors of like this style, the Swan Song Records logo. How about that? And that gets you like the Rush guy, whatever his name is. And so,
let's look
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, there you go. So what I mean is there was more of a Tolkien-esque kind of classic Western mythology being referenced a lot, especially exemplified by Led Zeppelin 4. But things got a little more advanced or demented and mutated. Like some of those later Black Sabbath album covers, late 70s, like sort of even Technical Ecstasy. Like, what am I looking at? What is that?
Totally.
Or like even where the one where they have like those Air Force masks.
Never Say Die. Yeah.
Never Say Die. It's like tonally there's something different. It's less like Hobbit and like going to the top of the mountain with flames. It gets into like modern technology, so that what I'm saying is Phantasm really kind of caught up with that, and it has that weird silver sphere that, yes, it feels like it's from another planet, but it also just feels like almost futuristic. So there's like this vaguely futuristic, ancient, occultic, supernatural mythology.
Yeah. The sphere, it's very Hypnosis album cover for sure.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Sphere and the mausoleum walls,
I gotta tag in right on what Tom was saying though, because
hit me. More album covers.
Band, the band that captures that sort of hybrid of everything you were talking about with technology and everything in mythology is none other than fucking Blue Oyster Cult. And this movie is Don't Fear the Reaper come to life. And I will be first in line. A couple weeks back we were talking about Gary Busey as a punchline, but Blue Oyster Cult's been a punchline now because of fucking Saturday Night Live, which just destroys me. Because Don't Fear the Reaper is a fucking awesome song, and that really is evocative to me of what is very TASM about Phantasm.
Look, how about this? What's often said? Don't fear, Michael. Don't fear. Yeah. I mean, it's not quite the same.
That's the message of the movie. Yeah, don't.
Yeah,
fear.
It's incredible. Don't fear, Michael. And then Michael says, like, don't fear a bunch of times, like before he goes into the gate to the other planet. And
it's the strength he draws on to to overcome his own fears. Yeah, exactly.
And then also
good call on Blue Oyster Cult for sure.
Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
No, just to round up on this one specifically. The thing that I like about it is these guys like having obtuse symbols, a whole a catalog of symbols of their own making. Like they have their own symbol, the weird Blue Oyster Cult symbol, but also the symbolics of like the weird magician pointing. Like there's all this loaded symbolism, and not just the literal symbols, but there's so much loaded symbolism too in Phantasm, like the tuning fork gate, and then
that's very prog rock.
Everything's exactly. Everything's in little boxes and stuff. So it's less pure Western mythology a la Led Zeppelin 4. It's certainly that, but it gets into that weird thing of like personal occultic symbolism and significance of objects and significance of symbols,
which is really fucking rad.
Awesome.
And obviously, fucking Rush, as we touched on earlier, is huge into that too, especially 2112, which you just have to imagine everybody on that production is fucking rocking that on 8-track, or if that even I don't even know if that fit on an 8-track, but so you got big fucking Rush. Fat bong rips. You got fucking Mahogany Rush, had to pull that. With the silver
it's
ball
a sphere.
Itself there.
Ride the sphere. Ride the silver sphere.
Yeah, bro.
That's a Rush.
Yeah.
What are they smoking? What's that all about?
And I think
it says that Mahogany Rush.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
And I think when you were talking about the older, scarier kids, who smoke things in that part of the high school, they're definitely into fucking Judas Priest, which I also think is another that's tipping more into the metal sphere, but you can see, with this this evoked Phantasm to me. And obviously going back to the Blue Oyster Cult cover too, that fucking hearse. I mean, it's all there, man.
Damn, it really just nails it. And what I really like about it is that just like I was saying, for example, the music is not literally just a heavy metal band scored it or something.
No,
like it's not on the nose, the Rock and Roll Connection.
Right.
So
you're talking about like the trappings of the album covers and just being evocative of the era and the sort of mishmash of fantasy and sci-fi and how that all gets sort of just the general vibe of the film. But the music, right, is like it seems like he was more inspired by like Mike Oldfield, like Exorcist, or like
Tubular Bells.
I read that he was actually into Goblin and Suspiria, and maybe that's what he was going for. As far as the actual music, it takes like a different cue kind of thing. But like your point's more about the whole tone and of the movie,
the zeitgeist.
All the trappings are taken from the zeitgeist of the time, which was like rock and roll ruled the world in the 70s, right? It's the biggest like kind of export and industry, rock and roll.
Yeah, but the film like. And this is what's really cool is this film is unique. It was the only one that had that was a direct hit on this sort of subculture. That had there was a time before this subculture and there was a time after, and like things moved on even and became more pure metal and then just shit metal kind of in the mid '80s. Hair metal and whatnot. And bands album covers look different. How about that? But album covers were so mysterious back then, and they always draw my attention. I think. Do you have any Black Sabbath there?
I might I'll throw it up in post.
The one that you were calling out was really good, Ev. I remember you were mentioning that
Sabbath Bloody Sabbath.
Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Actually, there's like a shot in the movie that looks like he was lining up the album cover to try to compose it. He's got Angus Scrim standing behind the bed. Yep. Like it looks like he's composing it the same way as that album cover.
Totally. Can I add another Sabbath? Because actually, really, Sabbath from the second half of the 70s, they were they really influenced this whole feel and look. And then even the song "Who Are You," which is just this like synth dirge, drilling into your skull. No, but the other album cover, it's kind of I think interesting too. It's more relatively subtle and more cinematic. Is Sabotage. Like this kind of really dopey stoner, like surrealism, trash surrealism, like, hey man, like what's the other side of the mirror, which is so phantasm.
Right.
Yeah. So, let me throw in here to kind of put a bow on the album cover thing too, which is, I think the that music we've been talking about, all that stuff, the album covers, it really has this kind of dream, nightmarish feel. That's when those influences are really coming into that music. It's very dreamy, nightmarescape kind of music. And that's obviously a big part of what Phantasm is. I mean, Phantasm was born from a dream that Don had, which I love. He had a dream about the ball chasing him, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I also love this too, that in his dream where the ball was chasing him down this like corridor, and there's nothing more fucking nightmarish than orbs in corridors, bro.
I know.
But there was like a weird like robotic ball dispenser that was just chucking these things out, but in his dream. But anyway, the cool thing about this movie, and I think that why it endures so much, going back to what I was saying, why it ages so well, is that like you can kind of like look at this now and appreciate it as an art movie, or at least I can. Like it doesn't feel really like an American horror film of its time. It's not like he saw Halloween and was trying to do that. He's really going for something that's pure nightmare vibes. It feels like, what Lucio Fulci would do like in the 80s where things were just totally off the rails. Like he was doing it before,
like the end of Gates of Hell or something.
Totally. That very like non-linear sort of just like, like he wanted this to be a nightmare and a dream. And he really leaned into that, and it totally worked for every little piece that he has. It works. It like motivates the characters. It motivates. It makes all the rough edges and discontinuity work. It makes everything. And then you have these two brother characters that are grief stricken, and then the film also has this beautiful underlying sort of theme about, these guys who are clouded with, grief and misfortune and confusion. And that's what's just so cool about it. And it feels like a music video, which I think kind of brings it back to the music thing.
Well, how about, this is one of the great compliments of a movie. Very often, maybe just about every time, there's a composition, there's a shot, it's suitable for framing. You know what I mean? He's got a great eye, which, not everybody has in horror or in general in film, but he has a great eye. He has like a painter's eye or something, He knows how to compose a shot.
Yeah, he's doing some cool like camera tricks and stuff too. There's an amazing shot when like the brother's in the payphone it's real tight on his face, and then it just starts to dolly back, like almost like they've got it in a truck or something, or they've got like dolly track set up, but it dollies back so beautifully, and it feels really smooth, almost like Steadicam or something. But anyway, there are like these great shots and
compositions,
yeah.
But even just like his eye, like my compliment is his visual sense, because when you are doing something, it's a dream. You got to hook up the visuals. You got to know what you're doing, and you got to have that raw talent. And he has it in spades. I think I was obviously reflecting on Phantasm 2. I've seen it a lot of times, and I was just like, he just knows, not even like how to tell the story visually. That's kind of not what this movie is, because it's a dream. No. But dreams, we remember the visuals of dreams. A little bit of oral memory, maybe. But dreams are these visual, strange movies in our head, and he just nails it.
Totally. And I think that something he also does really well, when we're going back to the mythology that he's building. I mean, you're really talking about a guy who is making a movie. He started shooting it in 1977, right? Very little money. He's 23 when he starts filming this movie. Insane. Wow. He's 25 when it gets released. But it's really this kind of like DIY nightmare mythology he's sort of building upon. And I love the idea of just, and we should look at the clip now too. It's a good segue to that. But just like...
Yeah, which one?
Well, just talk about the gate. Like you find these two metal objects, and you give it so much weight and significance in this one moment in the film, just out of just two simple props and a mirror. I love that. That's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at it. Is that the door to their
Let's watch
planet?
Let's just shut up and watch Phantasm.
Is that a door to their planet clip? Right? I think it is, right?
Yes.
Okay. So here we go. Yeah, like this. You just have that very 2001 here too influence.
Yeah, 2001 for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Good call. No, I know but you're making a really good point. Like, this is something I've always noticed. You don't need a lot of money to make a killer movie. It's not an excuse. Like, you're going to make a good movie, you're going to make a bad movie, and money might be involved, but like, he is innovative.
Don't fear.
No, but he wisely, you're right, actually. He just says, like, let's just get a room, all white, lit all white.
And that's a mirror.
White light.
There's a lot of cool restraint here, too. And the rest of the movie's got, like, haunted houses and crowded cemeteries and antique stores and stuff, but this feels very restrained in this room.
Well, 2001, again, like we're not in a familiar
the
place.
composition in this
and there's
really
this.
Nice too.
Look at that.
This is incredible. Man. That is so fucking album cover time.
Totally.
When he sees
Bad out of hell.
Slave. Can I just say, if we can do the volume real quick, Evan, here?
Back cover.
Can you do the volume?
Cover,
Wait, hold on one second. Can you do the volume? Is it possible to do the volume?
Yeah, it's up.
Slaves. What? Slaves? They're using them for slaves. The dwarves.
Wow.
And they gotta crush them because of the gravity and the heat.
There's your one line of...
Wait, hold on.
And this is the door to their planet.
Yeah. And these guys are all ready to go.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm belaboring a point here, but this always amuses me because it's the kind of great dialogue in a movie where if some people walked into that room, they'd be like, wow, you guys are on a lot of acid. Like, and it's like, and then they like crush the dwarves, and then they're all the slaves now, and then they go into their planet, and then you become a dwarf. It's like, what the fuck are you people talking about? I just love it.
It's the one line of exposition in the film, and it is like the stoniest like Toke line, like,
no, but
crush them, and then
it doesn't even really go anywhere.
The gravity and the heat.
Yeah, exactly. It just enormously amuses me that that they're delivering the lines beautifully, and straight ahead and dry, and it's that says so much. That little moment in that movie, like crush the dwarfs. No, but what I love is Reggie's response, like, yes, exactly. They crush the dwarves into slaves. Like he gets it, like where Michael's going with this.
Right.
And just that's such a drug conversation.
They do set it up earlier where they're like, wonder why they're crushing them down to half size, and everyone's like kind of pondering on it for a while.
It's just right then though. It's like they're having an LSD eureka moment,
Yeah. Well, it's funny you pointed out that it's like the tuning fork gate, and we see a tuning fork earlier in the movie, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned that.
A little foreshadowing with Reggie.
Yeah.
You want to get into that? Kind of follow through on this whole gate section?
Well, there was one thing about the slaves, too. It reminded me, I was feeling like that came a little bit from the Zeitgeist as well, but it reminded me of Zodiac. You know, it's like whoever I kill in this life will become slaves in my afterlife. It's even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. You know, like it's got that kind of like slaves in the afterlife.
You know, we're going to take that out, Marcus, and out of context what you just said. You know, that's going to be part of the that's the cold opening. Yeah. So anyway, no, totally. I bet you killing on Earth and then owning the souls of those you killed, that probably goes back to like Egyptian mythology or something. That they're all riffing off that. You know, I'm assuming. I don't know exactly.
Make them small.
Do we have? Did we want to? I was thinking maybe it'd be kind of cool to follow through.
Sure.
Because we do have a little bit of Reggie and the cosmic
you ready?
tuning fork. Okay. Yeah, and then I'm going to ask you guys what the hell is going on, because I want to hear some thoughts.
All right, you need volume?
Yeah, let's turn it up. Rock out. I love Reggie. So that's the foreshadowing from earlier. He'd be a good Halloween costume.
Totally.
Right? It's a very distinct look. Anyway.
That is a really good idea for a Halloween costume.
Yeah. I love Reggie. Trepidation. Don't fear the Reaper, man.
Totally.
So then it cross cuts, and what is it, Jody, the brother, is seeing, you know, the harlot of death, who's of course the tall man. And what I'm saying, though, what I'm maybe asking you guys is if you have any theories, him coming in contact with the tuning fork of the gate jolts her, aka the tall man. Any thoughts? Or is there any exposition on that?
I'm
or
just going with it, man.
Freewheeling? You just feeling it out? Okay. Because it makes... Because I know it doesn't make sense in the film. It wonderfully has like very little exposition, but I'm just saying, I just thought maybe I was missing something.
Well, there is a vibe in that room. Like, I don't know. That's completely new to me, but when they enter that room, there is like a synth pad that's pulsing, like a wave, like a whoom, whoom, whoom. It's really low. Right. So it is sort of like a giant, tuning fork does that too, right? It has a little bit of a waver, like in the sine wave or whatever. So maybe, But
that's a contact that affected the harlot / tall man. I don't know, just a thought. But that's what I love about it, because, and I'll just drive this point home, abusively, is like, I love that there's a lack of exposition, because so many other writers and screenwriters would really have a tendency to really over-explain it and be like, the mythos of the contact point of the, and it's just kind of happening, and some people criticized it.
Can you imagine a Hollywood remake of Phantasm?
That's kind of what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's
over-explaining everything. It's just
they split it into three parts, and the first movie all takes place on that planet.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, I can't.
Well, you were talking, Tommy. I think you were about to get into this. You said that some people were criticized it. We were talking about the Siskel and Ebert review.
Yeah, they really shredded Phantasm.
Yeah,
that's one of the problems that Ebert had with it, was like, it feels like just a bunch of random scenes strung together. It feels like you could run the movie in a loop and come in at any point in time.
And I was like,
like yes,
Mobius.
Yes.
No, I know, like a Mobius script. A Mobius script.
Right.
But like, and I'm like, and the problem is, Fat Boy?
Exactly.
Sorry.
No, totally.
No, but seriously, he was bugging me on that one. I was like, because they were describing a horror film with like irrational, illogical plot, and I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like he was saying, like, what is Kester really doing? What is he trying to do? And it's like he's trying to make a weird horror movie.
No, he's ahead of his time, man. He really is for that stuff. I mean, there really wasn't much of just like that. That's why it does feel like European. It feels like it. It feels like it doesn't really feel like a traditional American horror film for that time.
How about this? How about this, gentleman? Maybe it's the only other film that hints at the possibilities of Jodorowsky's Dune.
Whoa. Maybe.
Mid-ish. Well, I'm just saying mid-ish into late 70s. And just that well, I'm saying that Dune feels like it would have been the ultimate late 70s bong rip album cover. That's kind of what I'm saying.
100%. And it totally has that, you quality to it for sure. I mean, the scene we just watched. But one thing I wanted to touch on is, Tom, you
but it's not Jodorowsky in Paris. It's this crazy 23-year-old guy with a camera in the
valley,
San Fernando Valley or something. It's so amazing. That's what I love. And that's back to your thing, dude, is the DIY thing. Like, that's another thing that Hollywood do to just destroy the charm of Phantasm, too much money or any money, because it really is so DIY, and he did so much with so little,
I know. He really did.
And
it's very inspiring.
I'm very impressed. Yeah. Exactly.
All those little creative tricks and the fact that it is so DIY, I think is what helps it connect to like the audience too, and like helps. He seems like Coscarelli feels like he's really close to. Like you say, he's only 23. He feels like he's really close to being a teenager still. Like he's still in touch with all those little things that kick around your head. It comes out in his other films too, that are, like deal with childhood and teenagers, and this movie is really like connected, like teen boys specifically really connected with this film. He noted that, and I think it deals with a lot of the. Not only the psychological issues, but also just the pop culture issues of what being a teenager is about. There's other reference points. I mean, like those little dwarves are like Jawas, basically.
I know.
And
so
he's
really
a haunted house, and like Angus Scrimm is kind of like Lurch or Frankenstein. They are sort of like spin-off things that you encounter as a kid, like spooky, scary things that you see. In your waking life, and then you dream about them later. It's sort of like interpretations of it, but it all feels like the way that the fears of like a teenager kind of mixed in together. Anyway, I don't know.
Well, two things on that. Yeah, he said Don Coscarelli said he had the Jawas concept, drawn up before Star Wars: A New Hope came out, which I love.
Oh yeah,
that's alleged. He's filming it in '77, so you never know before.
You're right.
Kind of druids.
Coincidence, though.
Yeah,
probably a coincidence.
No, but they're dwarf druids. That's distinct with both of the Jawas and they're both dwarf druids.
George Lucas got it from me.
Little people do. Yeah.
The thing I wanted to close the loop on, you were talking about Ebert. I wanted to segue out of that because the thing with Ebert is that you were talking about he's criticizing this for being this kind of free form, sort of improvisational, not nonsense kind of thing. Or just horror movie trope on a relay. But one of the best scenes in the movie is, doesn't even, again, these moments don't need to be in the film. It doesn't necessarily push the story forward, but they're so fucking good. And this scene in particular is one of my favorite.
Ooh, what are you going to show? I have no idea.
We'll
just show it.
Always the image that sticks with me is the image of the tall man. Walking in Main Street. And, here he is in slow motion too, which obviously also gives it that amazing dreamlike quality.
And also the drenched in echo footsteps. I was analyzing the scene. That's so important. And you know what else? This is a nice thing to shout out to Angus Scrimm, a.k.a. that's like his pseudonym. I forgot his real name. But, it was one of those fortuitous things that Coscarelli realized that when he cast this really tall man who was in one of his previous films, Scrimm was really into it, and he put a lot into it.
Totally,
and that's a great luck out. Yeah, when you cast, you don't always know if this guy's going to just phone it in, or if he's going to go, what if I wore this suit? What if I walked with this gait? Like what if I had this facial expression? So Angus Scrimm really created the tall man, and that's a beautiful thing because I definitely heard that Don wasn't expecting much, and he thought like maybe he could direct him and have sort of a passable, interesting kind of tall man, but he made him an icon. The actor did, and he made all those choices.
Sorry to cut you off. No,
that's it.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, before we move on to Angus and potentially anything else and move on from this clip, I just want to back it up for 1 second because I really want to discuss the source of tonight's that you're using for these clips, Tom, because this is the Open Matte laser disc, which is
Open Matte
Tasm, bro.
Tasm, bro.
Dude, you ever open Matt Tasm in the desert, bro?
Matt Tasm. Okay. All right. Yes.
But
no, you're right.
I want to call it out really quickly for this shot in particular because this blew my fucking mind. In the open matte version, and there's the beautiful 4K remaster. It's so funny we're using the laser disc here to show it, but the 4K remaster is amazing. I encourage everyone to seek it out. They did a beautiful job. But this open matte here actually shows you that motherfucking Reggie had a retail location, and you know what?
I was gonna say, I didn't remember that.
You know what, guys? Changes.
No, I know. I've
everything.
never ever seen that. Yeah, and that's the thing to compare to this open matte. It's cut off and it's like just the hint of every letter at the top, if at all. And it does say Reggie's ice cream on the truck, but who's looking?
Doesn't matter.
But that's a huge fat sign, and he runs the ice cream because I think we all just assumed he was like a pizza delivery man equivalent, like a total bong ripper who couldn't handle a job. But no, that's his place of business.
Yeah, and it makes him a role model.
Spin on the ending.
Yeah, it puts a different spin on the ending because now he's somebody who owns his character. He owns his own shop. He's like a good role model for the kid, and he actually
could care for that kid, right? He actually could like support him. Yeah. He is sort of like the father figure that none of them have.
He's a fucking entrepreneur. Right. He's an entrepreneur, for crying out loud. All right.
He's slinging ice cream, dude. Actually, can I get to something just to intersect then to what Marcus was saying, and then just staying on Reggie for a little bit. And you were bringing this up, Evan. You had a revelation, just to get a little serious for a moment. This film is about something, thank you, Siskel and Ebert, but it is not just like a weird ass dream some 13-year-old kid had. It's about the fear of death and loss of your own somewhat, but of loved ones, and even more importantly, supportive loved ones, because those brothers lost their parents, probably to the tall man in the narrative of this film, but they just lost their parents. And then, as we learn later, Michael, the little brother, is the whole dream world is coming to terms with the also recent death of his brother Jody, and then he kind of is alone. So it's about loss and the fear of being disconnected from people who care for you and care about you, and that's a huge fear, especially for a kid. And that's what we're seeing here, and it's exemplified by that fantastic scene at the end where good old Reggie is consoling Michael by the fireplace and saying, "Hey, let's go on a road trip, my man." And he is big brothering him or dadding him, and and that's what Michael really needs to hear and wants to hear, because it's really about the loss through death of loved ones. Yeah,
and also coping with with death and PTSD, of that too, because I think a lot of what's happening is like, these nightmarish manifestations of PTSD, not to get too heavy, but that's what's so cool about the movie. You're right. It's not just this freeform nightmare horror movie tropes, Ebert. It is also...
There's an emotional basis to it.
Yeah, it's underscored with just really nice and subtle too, to the point to where, neckbeards can be like, "Tasm!" And then also like, you can really look at it and be like, man, this really has some weight to it.
Absolutely. Because that scene at the end is very important. I mean, it has a crazy shock ending, boy, which means, it's the end, or is it, that kind of thing. But I love it, and it's really good, and it got me when I first saw it. I wasn't expecting that shit, the mirror, and it's beautifully done. But what I'm saying is the penultimate scene of the film, the emotional core lands on the penultimate scene, the scene before the very final shock at it. And, it's very tender.
Catch you by surprise because you're already surprised that it was a dream, and the shocks come back to back really quick. So the movie's wrapping up, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, it was a dream. Oh, his brother's dead. Oh, he's disturbed or whatever, and then it comes back to the shocking. So it does,
it's a flat circle.
They did it.
Well, that's what Ebert was getting at.
Flat circle, the record, man.
Yeah, man. It's True Detective. But it's like that is what Ebert picked up on, where it is just a circle, and it's just like like dread and fear of death in this endless cycle that Michael's in.
It's like when the record's done playing, it's just on the end, just looping.
Yeah. tall man, boy, boy. Yeah, and I love that, and he goes in, and what I mean is like, because it's a little duel they were having, and like Michael might escape the getting drawn into that, by the beasts, and then they have it's eternal. It feels
you play a good game, boy.
Exactly. That's what
the
Tall Man says.
Not finished.
Yeah, and the tall man's dead, and then maybe Michael's dead, and it just goes on in this cosmic loop. It's great. Very cool.
Yeah, and it is kind of like you were mentioning, like, or touching on earlier this, even before we hit record, I can't remember, the idea of it kind of being a role-playing game or Dungeons and Dragons, that kind of vibe too, because that's also firing off heavy in the late 70s too, is the idea of, Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing and him being kind of the dungeon master, the game master of this nightmare world. And that's pretty fucking late 70s bong rip too,
That's a huge bong ripper. I mean, D&D came into its own like right then. Then. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And
it Don,
was festering a little bit.
And Don was all over that shit.
Yeah. And that's it's probably influenced him more than rock and roll, actually. Like, we're seeing the cultural larger zeitgeist that he was probably experiencing, but he's much more of a D&D guy than like a Judas Priest guy, which is very cool. But
right,
well, do we have another clip?
Talk to us about this. We were talking about acid trip. We were talking about the acid trip logic, the acid trip, the bad acid trip sort of vibe of the whole movie, and nothing says that more than just finger in a box, man.
Yeah. Can we hear the older brother?
Sure.
React. You pull it up.
It's going up.
Funny.
I love the look of this laser disc, man.
I know. Keep talking.
Okay, I believe you.
It's a tad deadpan, but it's fair. I mean, like, that's evidence. No, actually, just to take another angle to all this is, again, cutting against like having D&D and Tolkien-esque tendencies. There isn't any mythology to that finger or how the green blood or any of that. It's just happening. And honestly, I don't know if it's a conscious nod, but that's very Buñuel.
Yes.
Louis Buñuel. And then, and of course, that was a huge influence on Jodorowsky. But that's right out of Buñuel, like disembodied body parts and like stored in little boxes and everything. And I just love that because it's dream logic. Dali, too. It's feeding mainly off dream logic. And I thought that was a really interesting. I wonder. I kind of would like to talk to him someday. Like, where is his head at that he wanted to make something that was really a fantasy that's steeped. I know we're repeating ourselves here, in a loop forever, or I am, but it's a fantasy with dream logic. It's like Salvador Dali fantasy, and it's a masterfully cool,
right?
Take.
Yeah, it wasn't just like horror tropes or I mean, like the fact that it mixes in sci-fi and stuff. There's definitely no rules, like you said.
Yeah.
But you know what everybody
that finger, of course, turns into like a fly. The finger is like a larva, turns into a fly.
Let's not forget.
Like, maybe this is about bug people. Your brain's going, what is this about? Who is this guy? So it's a haunted house, and then it's like, oh no, there's a flying sphere inside. Is that a ghost or what is that?
Right.
There's so many different elements going on that
who's powering the sphere?
To be kind of like aliens, I guess. It's kind of, but not the movie Aliens, but it's like, I guess the tall man's from another planet.
As Reggie and Michael, they had a eureka moment. Like, that's their planet, which is weird because, like, why did they say that? Because it could be another dimension.
Yeah,
like that could be their interpretation, but they're like, no, there's like this other planet.
Right, that could be a netherworld or something. It reminds me too of I think Beetlejuice
that
might have borrowed from this movie too. And they step off the porch in Beetlejuice, they end up on Mars,
right.
And it's like the red desert planet too. So I
didn't
realize that's what that idea maybe.
One child of Phantasm is the Nightmare on Elm Street series, but since it's become the mid 80s, then everything looks and feels really different, and it doesn't have that specialness of, a Blister Called album cover. But like, I was actually watching Freddy's Dead, which I hadn't seen, I don't know when, but I was watching it, and it's It's got that.
Five? Is that like 5?
Yeah, 6, dude. It's freaking 6, bro. Like 1991 or something. They're referencing like Twin Peaks. But I kind of enjoy it, actually, because it really goes for that dream logic thing. And I mean, of course, Nightmare on Elm Street is about dream logic. I'm just saying that that's actually a pretty groovy spawn of Phantasm. Although it is, all I'm saying again is just it's missing that heavy metal album cover aesthetic to me.
Well, there's a little bit of like the weapon too. That Phantasm has like a signature weapon.
Yes. It's metallic.
Yeah,
fetishistic. Well, the ball and then the glove.
It's funny that movies started doing that. Like Krull's got that Chinese star looking.
Oh yeah.
That's like the glaive.
Gotta have the gimmick.
And maybe the lightsaber I always thought was kind of the foundation of that. Like maybe it's Excalibur. I don't know, but just having like a signature kind of weapon for your movie.
Can we talk about the ball?
Interesting move.
I've been waiting. Everybody's just waiting for the peace scene, Evan.
Well, this is what I want to talk about.
Watches.
This is what I want to talk about. So
let it roll, man. Let the ball roll.
Okay, on this clip here, I found this to be kind of amusing.
I completely forgot about this. Go ahead.
You get to see the mechanism that.
Let Evan go. Yeah.
Well, I was just talking about like how where this movie kind of fits in, with the history of horror films, and midnight movies and that sort of a thing. Is I find it amusing that my girlfriend's mother, big horror movie fan, watching horror movies into the 50s and 60s, like The Haunting and things like that, and loved Halloween, and then this comes out, let's go see it at the theater. She sees this scene, is like, no fucking way, and then we're never again, are we going to horror movies? And then I think all bets were off for sure. Not only with the brain juice here, but also the warm piss that floats in. I think when warm piss is floating in, that's kind of like I'm out. With the horror movie scene.
That image like soured her on watching any other horror movies ever again. This right here, the welling up of the dead man's urine. I forgot about it.
My dad took my sister to see that too, and she was like, I guess she must have been like 8 years old. He took her to see that movie.
And it was the urine scene ruined her?
Yeah, probably. I think they showed, actually, what they remembered is that they showed a trailer for like Pink Flamingos or something before the movie. Amazing. And then my mother was like so like freaked out, that they had like let her child let her into the movie to see this movie that had like a nudity in the trailer beforehand.
That'll do it.
The whole ball thing is so, that's pretty far out, I think. And
it really
Phantasm
is.
And Phantasm is playing, in like Jersey, it's playing in these, suburbs, as you said. It's playing out there.
Long Island.
Yeah, Long Island. You're not just seeing it on, 42nd Street or whatever.
No.
People are, it's the new horror film. Let's go see it. What the fuck? So I think that
big fucking hit.
And Halloween is a big film around the time, big independent horror film, not really gory, and that's pretty like insane. When you're everyone in the theater's on mescaline and shit, and they're all
I know you're saying not just the ball. But but it's not just the ball, which is stunning. It's like what's driving it, and it gets it does get a little fucking Jedi-ish. Like it's powered mysteriously and all that kind of thing. But I think what you're saying though, which is a great point, is there's like a 1, 2, 3 punch with the execution of what the ball can do. And I felt the same way when I first saw it. It's like it hits the caretaker guy. And the blades go in, and it's like, oh, that looks rough. And then this fat ass drill. Actually, there's 4 things. Excuse me. So blades, fat ass drill, and then the jets of the blood draining from his body. Which
it's got a port on the other side for the blood.
It's like spouting, and then the urine. And I was just like, what the fuck is happening? And I bet that was there's a lot of hooting and hollering and freaking out, and it's one of the great famous scenes, and it was they led with it with the advertising. I thought there'd be more ball before I saw it, like it'd be happening a lot, but it was pretty strange. It's only 2 times you see it.
I heard I heard that the ball scene. Sorry to just real quick. That I heard that he filmed 1 scene with it, and it went so well. But he's like, shit, man, the ball's gonna be a big deal. We got to get 1 more ball scene in there, Nice. So the ball was just gonna be a one-off. Sorry, Marcus.
It's really hard to imagine that he wasn't like influenced by Star Wars for that, or just like the filmmaking technique or something, or just like his excited that you could do something, that way, or like ILM in general. It seems like it's got some inspiration there, but I don't know what the timeline is.
Oh, you made it through the success of Star Wars, but like, can I just, some observation I'm having right now? I mentioned earlier the echoing footsteps. I love slowed down footage with real time sound effects, and they do that when the tall man's walking, and then it's just fat, drenched in echo. What I'm saying is, I also want to compliment him. I don't know if we ever really consciously thought about it. Is the sound of the ball is fucking badass. Like, that's just as good, kind of like, it could have been kind of like, but they got a nice fat synth tone, like, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
It sounds, the ball sounds awesome.
It does.
So all I'm saying is kind of like a David Lynch thing. Like, that's another thing that, uninspired filmmakers, they don't even touch sound, especially in horror.
Sleep on the sound. Yeah,
exactly.
I think there's a lot of good sound in this. Like the growls and stuff by the dwarves is like slowed down dog barking. So it's like,
yeah.
So you just hear this like low pitched dog barking. It's incredible because you don't know. It's like familiar, but mysterious, and it's a great solution.
Animalistic,
really cool.
And then they're just hooded little people, like, and they don't sound like that. I don't imagine, but
it's pretty wacky.
Well, I've never seen any of the other ones, and maybe I don't want to know the answer to this question.
I haven't either,
because he's got sort of, he's got the curse of the hit, right? The curse of success, and he has to go back. I guess like Phantasm was such a hit that he's got to make, like, I don't know, at least 4 other ones, right?
Well,
he did Beastmaster too.
Oh, right. Well, that was, and then there's a sequel to that too. I don't know if he did that, but
no.
Did he?
I'll tag in.
Did they ever explain the ball? Like in the other movies.
I hope not.
Phantasm.
Let's be brief on the sequels.
I know. I was going to say I want to be real brief on the sequels, but it is one of the most bizarre horror movie franchises of all time. I mean, if you watch them in succession, you'll have a pretty off feeling night for sure. They're not as good as the original, in my opinion. A lot of people like the second one. It's kind of a buddy film, with Reggie, but they recasted Mike, which is bad, and blah.
Oh, they did.
They did, because it's a studio movie. Yeah. But anyway, I want to quickly, because we got about 15 minutes left on the clock. I'm staring at a lot of shit I want to talk about. So let's just talk about the music if we can.
Oh God.
And real quick, surprise for you guys. I fucking pulled the trigger. I fucking did it.
Oh, sick.
Gotta get the
Talk about the
Japanese
sphere.
Yeah.
That's great, dude. Of course you got
nice.
that. I knew you'd get it. I knew you'd get it.
But anyway. The music is just fucking awesome. Like you said, that kind of, he's going for the Exorcist vibe. It's so cool how much it comes back in the, how much they use that theme and then kind of transpose it in different ways. And it's just, it's so great. It adds so much to the movie. I just love, any sort of type of horror soundtrack that has real drums, And
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Because some people say, it's Halloween maybe influenced, John Carpenter's Halloween score. But, the live drums and the live rhythm track, the bass and the drums, that's a great rare thing. And that's actually another time sliver. Like, there's a very rare period before everyone just went with like synsonic drums and the technology went forward with like, phony baloney drums. But like Gary Newman's Cars from 1979 is a perfect example of how New Wave for a minute had just drums. Traditional classic fat ass drums and everything's synth over it, and that's a great sound. And then and Phantasm's in that brief little pocket of time. Yeah
Right. Yeah, some prog rock does that too. Yeah, for
Rush.
Sure.
Yeah
It's cool. Like, I think that's another cue that he cares about the music, that there's live drumming, and then the fact that the boys play a song in the movie, they can actually play guitar.
I was just going to go to that.
I wish we could watch that. I wish we could watch
another
that.
cue that Don understands the world of music. It's another clue to your theory that it's classic rock.
Yeah. I guess he's more into music. You're all reminding me. He definitely. I don't know how much he's into rock and roll, Don. I'd love to know. But yeah, here's our boys. Here's my man rocking the bow tie, Reggie, backing up older brother with the Stones shirt and that hat. And by the way,
sitting here at midnight.
I want to know if this is an original song or a cover or what's the deal?
I think it is an original song. Pretty sure it's an original song.
I think so too, yeah.
It's awesome. I want to hire them to play this for me for my birthday.
Where's the 7-inch of this?
You know?
Yeah.
I'm saying. No, and then I love how they end it with a savage rave up, acoustic rave up, you know? And then Reggie's great line. We might not be able to hear it, but like Reggie's great line wrapping up the song is like we're hot as love. Oh, wait, here we go.
We're hot as love, you know.
That is so. You know what it reminds me of? He reminds me of like that old show WKRP in Cincinnati, and like Johnny Fever and like dirtbag older hippie guys who are playing like, you know, whole Pink Floyd album cover sides, late night FM.
Totally.
Like Reggie specifically, because he's a little older than the other
Is it
guys.
WKRP where he's playing Pink Floyd, actually?
That's why I mentioned it.
Wow.
There you go.
I gotta fucking see that.
Yeah.
So every episode of 1 fucking hour, or at least I think most of them, if not everyone, has at least a nice reference to the Ace of Spades. But
Right. Gotta keep.
Oh my God.
we keep pulling that card.
I know we pull that card, but you have to mention
every
the
episode.
TASM folklore here, big time. Which this can't be true, but allegedly Lemmy was at a TASM screening in New York, and he said that Mike's head looked like the Ace of Spades, and
No.
That kid's got a head like the Ace of Spades.
Ace of Spades, and then he spent the rest
Hold
of
on
the
a
screening.
second. Stop the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got an
And
idea for a song.
allegedly spent the rest of the screening writing the lyrics, and this is out there in the
No.
world. Sorry to waste the clock on that, but
Yeah,
it's the Ace
no,
of
please do.
Spades.
No, we had to mention Ace of Spades, but of course, it's not that Lemmy's was a huge gambler. It's not. That's why he wrote it. That's not
know,
the reason. You know what I mean? Like he would just be at the Rainbow Bar and
At
just
the
play
top-
like video poker, like
Right.
all day and all night. That's all he ever did.
Are they trying to say? Is the rumor trying to say the kid's haircut looks like a Spades haircut?
I mean, it. I thought that too before I heard the
Like I
story.
don't.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
boy,
right,
that-
it makes total sense.
boy, his
That
hair
kid's
looks
got a
like
head
the Ace.
like the Ace of Spades.
Yeah, because you know why? Because you know spades come up to a weird point, just like his haircut.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got 10 minutes.
Stretch,
Oh, no, wait.
That's a stretch. Yeah.
Fun fact
idiotic.
number two of TASM, excuse me. Angus Scrim, real name
Scrim.
Rory Guy. He wrote the liner notes on the back of Meet the Beatles, guys. I mean,
That's so nuts.
So is that another one of those made up facts?
No,
or
that is
No, he was
true.
a journalist. He
That's
wrote.
true.
He wrote articles and stuff, music magazines. He
I
did
thought
like
I
a-
was, I thought I was up
Sinatra
on my
liner
Beatles
notes.
trivia, but that is very deep dive
Insane.
Beatles trivia.
I love that.
yeah.
You know.
Sorry, had to get that in. But go ahead, Tom.
No, it's great trivia. Well, so now we're in the under the 10-minute zone, and
Yeah.
I cannot remember what the other clips are.
No, you
I
wanted to
guess we're
talk about
talking-
his early work. Early work.
Right, and it's true because we were maybe just the 2-second mention, or did we already do this? I guess was "Don't fear the Reaper," and then throughout the film, the motto is "Don't fear." And
Yes,
there is
we-
that great scene. I guess I'll just reference it, but the great scene that I really love that. That's when I realized I love the film. By the way, when he visits the fortune teller, the grandmother, you can just throw on the visual, and I loved how it looked, and like and it's a perfect kind of Jodorowsky-ish feel is the sign out front of the grandmother's fortune teller parlor or whatever. It's just a red hand.
Yeah.
That's fucking dope, dude. That's official. That is what's up. And that's the second I went, I love this film. That right then, because when the film starts, it's like graveyard and like naked girl. It's like, all right, but this is the scene that really got me. Anyway, and also this is surrealism meets kind of like fantasy, where his hand is stuck until he doesn't let the fear take control and he can get out. It's like that is right out of El Topo. That is right out of El Topo.
Good point.
It's true because like there's the four masters, and like there's a way to defeat them, and he's figured that out, and there's all these metaphysical challenges, I guess is all I'm really saying. So that's right out of El Topo. I'm not saying that he's referencing El Topo specifically, but I feel like both films are referencing a certain kind of arcana. That's all I'm getting at. And it's just very cool,
I love that.
and it's more abstract. It's more abstract than Tolkien. Beating up on Tolkien here tonight, aren't I? But anyway, so we
some
got
cool sunglasses too. Love her sunglasses.
Oh,
yeah.
Grandma's got some dope sunglasses.
Grandma's awesome. Love Grandma. But yes, we're running out of time, and we did kind of stumble on this really interesting thing. Castorelli made a film, amazingly, 2 films before Phantasm.
Coscarelli.
Oh, what am I saying?
Castorelli.
Cascaroli.
Cascatonio. Yeah, my apologies, Don.
But
anyway,
Cascarelli.
oh. So, motherfucking orange peel beef over here. So, okay. So he made 2 films between like being 20 and like 25. And the first one, Jim, the World's Greatest, very obscure. I don't think there's any possibility of that even coming out on Blu-ray. It's like just bit the dust culturally. But it's his first film. I think Universal produced it. And just let's take a step back there. Like a major studio made this crazy, 20-year-old guy's movie. But what's really cool for mega fans, maybe they've seen it, maybe they haven't. There's some parallels. I guess we can start playing these clips from Don's first film, and it's Jim, the World's Greatest. And how about, does any of this sound familiar? There's an older brother with a younger brother, and they look out for each other and they help each other. And the younger brother's having a lot of problems with kind of a villain. And in this case, this villain, as you see here, is their alcoholic father who beats the little brother. And guess what? The alcoholic brother, who's the villain in their lives of these 2 brothers, it's played by Angus Scrimm.
Wow.
And that's crazy. And it's a really nice performance by Angus Scrimm, who plays. It shows you the power of his acting. And in fact, his performance in this film is what Don noted and said, I got to get this guy. He'd be great as a horror movie villain. And that's where this all started. So we're going to see that in a second, just a brief clip where Angus is, I think he's trying to apply for a job, but then sort of gets the DTs and the shakes and just can't deal with being, a big old alcoholic. And he can't cope. And he becomes a monster in the film. And towards the end of the film, actually, in the last few scenes, there's this confrontation in an alleyway where him and the older brother are like, the older brother's almost going to kill Scrimm. And it's played like a horror scene, actually. So, yeah, there's your tall man, everybody.
Wow.
In 1975, and
he's amazing.
He's got acting chops, man. That is a very powerful, almost silent movie face kind of acting,
Totally.
And look at that, he's walking down the street, and so that's powerful. But my favorite thing, Jim the World's Greatest, is this fucking really beautiful thing.
Reggie.
It's Reggie as OD, everyone's favorite local skydiving stoner. And there he is.
Oh my God.
And he's talking about how he's telling God he's really high and to keep him high or something. And so anyway, so yeah, we got it. So it's awesome. A real treat. I think it's on YouTube.
That's funny. It's funny, those parallels. I was checking out parallels between Phantasm and his earlier work. I was checking out a little bit of Kenny and Company, the movie, I think, which is right before Phantasm, and it also
film.
It also has parallels. Michael, the little boy, Michael's in it. It's a couple years younger, and then it deals with a lot of the same kind of subjects of like kids versus the world. Like there's a scary house in the neighborhood. There's a scary older guy. They actually stuff a dummy at one point that looks kind of like Angus. It's very weird. Right. There's some weird parallels there. I guess it just points to like where Cascarelli's head was at.
Oh,
that he was still able to get in touch with the inner child to be able to deal with. Because
he was a child about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah,
when he made these films, which I think that's another thing that's very fresh about him and all these films, and specifically Phantasm, is that he's still got his youth is still fresh on his mind, and a lot of guys are getting older and they just have like real world adult BS in the way, but he had a direct line to adolescent fears and wonderment and excitement.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story of just the fact that he is so young, making Phantasm is his 3rd feature film, which is really crazy. And the fact that I think being so touched with his adolescence, because it was just a few years ago. I think really adds a lot to the movie, and I think that is what kind of makes it feel very authentic, especially with those.
Can I give you
the main character?
Yeah. Well, here's a perfect example is we're talking about the muscle car angle in the film, Evan, and and that's definitely him exercising the 18-year-old Don, who would look longingly at the richer kids in his high school, and he'd go one day, whatever that model is, 1971
71 Barracuda.
It's a Cuda. And so he would just look at it longingly and go like, I'm going to get one of those motherfuckers someday. So he basically cast a 1971 Cuda just because I wanted one. And he probably drove around on the set, So that's, his head was at a lot of ways, And I think he likes blonde women. Just a guess. What do you guys think?
There's a princess in the film. The grandma.
Right. Yeah, exactly. There's the fortune teller granddaughter, and then 2 blonde girls driving with Michael.
Yeah, love that.
Hey, can you guys help me out? I know we have like seconds to go. Yeah. What happens to the granddaughter? She is curious and goes to the mausoleum and gets gobbled up by
she becomes a dwarf, I guess. She gets kind of taken into that room. And
why did she go there? Was she just curious? Like, what's Michael talking about?
Oh, now you want an explanation, huh?
Yeah,
a lot. I want a lot of understanding right now.
Yeah, it's not explained why she goes there. No, not at all.
Okay. Well,
guess one thing
I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't what happens to her.
Good point.
One thing people might miss too is what he was establishing in that scene where there's like the amazing car chase with the car turns over and fucking what's his name, Reggie's on the ground and everything. They're trying to establish the psychic connection between the brothers too, which I think is a really cool thing, which does turn into something later on in the franchise. But I do think
that's a little Star Wars-ish too.
I think that's fucking dope. Another rad story element. But
well, guys, we got no time. TASM.
TASM. Right,
it's a wrap. Well, I don't know. It's
fantastic.
What's the name of the show, huh? You tell me.
Well, that was awesome. Thank you guys for listening to 1 fucking hour on TASM. Before we sign off, 2 things. One is be sure to subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Or if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or iTunes, whatever the fuck it is now, subscribe like that too, because that helps us out. I want to mention,
we're on Meta too.
We're on Meta. No, we're not on Meta.
We're big on Meta. Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say too is that we also put together a fucking TASM playlist. We chose some real TASM songs, some Blue Oyster Cult, of course, some Rush, some Judas Priest, some I don't know what else we have in there. We had some other cool stuff.
Zebra, Sabbath.
Oh yeah, right.
Zebra track.
Ooh,
and Dougie Fresh, the human beatboxer,
sampled TASM.
Huh?
Yeah,
check it out.
So in the description of the video, click on that. You can listen to the TASM playlist we put together for y'all. And then next week, guys, shifting gears big time. We're going into we're going hard.
I'm scared already.
Yeah, I know. We're going hard.
What have we done?
We're going hard into 2003, a great year for cinema. This is the documentary on the making of Boondock Saints and the fallout of prior to the making of Boondock Saints, Overnight, starring the director of Boondock Saints, Mr. Troy Duffy, which seems very apropos.
In his overalls.
In his overalls.
Is he never not in his overalls?
Well,
he's still in his overalls.
We got to wear overalls when we do it.
Oh, that would be great. I would do that. I would definitely do that.
Yeah, I don't have any, but
I need to get some.
That's going to be next week, and it's very apropos because they've announced a third Boondock Saints film, so I think stars have aligned. TASMs have aligned. So we're going to
give people what they want, right?
People have been clamoring for a third one. I don't know.
They have, yeah. I think the second one was crowdfunded. All right, so
so watch. You got it. You can't miss that, folks.
Yeah.
Next week.
Overnight from 2003. It might be hard to get, but definitely rush order the DVD off eBay. It's Overnight, the documentary about the making of Boondock Saints from 2003. We're going to be all over it. 1 fucking hour on that. And that's it, guys. Thanks so much. And now, your moment of Zen. All right, take care.
Sticks into the man's forehead. A drill comes out and bores into his skull, into his forehead, and then sucks out his brain. It's a little.
Oh, okay. It's a real love story, as you can definitely see.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
What part is love?